having me here today. To be completely honest with you, when I was first approached about doing the talk here, I was thinking that as a circus artist, I will hang from the air 25 feet up with no mat underneath me. I will breathe fire in front of an audience of 2,000 people. But usually in my life, the one thing that I am terrified of and that I ask to never have to do is get up and speak in front of people. And last night I was reading about the speakers, and I read about John, and to be honest, again, when I heard that I was going to have to go after him, my response was, why do I have to go after this young person who does this so well? One thing I've really enjoyed about hearing the speakers go before me is when they reference the talks that have gone before them, because TED is about the exchange of ideas, and what that shows to me is that we're not just all here waiting our turn to talk, that we're actually listening to each other and incorporating the ideas that other people have spoken about into our talks. And so I started kind of keeping a list of, I have to remember to reference that, and I have to remember to reference that, and so on. And so right now where I am at is when I was growing up, I wanted to be a ballet dancer, but in 8th grade, I became aware of, and in 9th grade, it became a reality that I was quite physically limited due to scoliosis. In addition to the fact that my parents did not want me to be a dancer at all. They wanted me to be an engineer. Is there anybody here who is or has been a finalist at the Intel International Science and Engineering Fair or Westinghouse, by any chance? But you all know, but I know that Stuyvesant is very prominent high school in that competition. So I was a finalist for 3 years in high school, and I went to the University of Michigan, and I got my degree in marine engineering. But I was very unhappy. It was not what I wanted for myself. And as was said before, when all else fails, go to law school. So for some reason I thought that since I didn't like being an engineer, the way to fix that would be to go to law school and become an intellectual property lawyer. And I finished my Juris Doctor's degree, I joined the Illinois State Bar, and I promptly ran away to join the circus. So, when I first heard that the theme was tipping point, I thought, wow, tipping point in circus, this is going to be great. This is such a natural fit. Because I spent most of my life hanging in the balance, trying not to fall off things. And then I was reminded, trying not to fall off things, trying to control the tipping point. Circus artists spend a huge amount of time practicing and performing balance. If you are on top of a tight wire, somebody is balancing on you, or if you are balancing an object on yourself. Might be able to kill 18 minutes this way. And you reach a tipping point, that means that you have fallen or you have dropped an object. And so then I was like, now what am I going to talk about? Not having tipping points. But what that made me realize, of course, is that tipping points in life that are significant to us are often identified in hindsight. It's not something that we would have chosen for ourselves. It's unexpected. Sometimes it's unwanted. But we look back, and because a particular event or something that we learned pushed us beyond our comfort zone, made us reach beyond our imagination, and took us past limits that we thought we had, they become very significant in our lives. So the particular area of circus arts that I teach is known as social circus. And what that means is that social emotional goals are as important as technical skill to our students. So we use circus arts as a context to increase the students' focus, confidence, teamwork, and responsibility, as much as teach them how to juggle 3 balls or walk on a tight wire. And in that way, social circus seeks to be a tipping point for each of its students' lives. Circus is a wonderful art form in which to reach students because, how many of you have seen a circus before? Most people have seen a circus before, and hopefully for most of you that's a fun experience. You have good memories of going to the circus and being amazed by the things that you saw, possibly even inspired to want to learn some of them. And that makes it very accessible in terms of reaching students. But the other thing about circus is, of those of you who raised your hand as having seen a circus, How many of you thought that's totally something I can do? Like, I'm just gonna go home, I'll get right back, I'll get on that, and I'm gonna run away and join the circus. Actually, I actually know there are some people here, because I've met some people here through Juggling Club. But I thought I was gonna get much further without having to reference my notes. But it involves a huge range of skills. I've mentioned tight wire walking, acrobatics, juggling, clowning. So oftentimes circus arts will appeal to a student's natural tendency. If there's a student who's a risk taker, who's constantly being told don't stand on top of the monkey bars, they get to circus class and they want to learn acrobatics. A lot of times students who are interested in mathematics and patterns, they find that they really love juggling and the patterns involved in juggling. But sometimes students who have struggled to succeed in a traditional setting like academics will find that circus provides them a way to turn something that usually gets them into trouble into a skill. So for example, when you have a class clown, I guess that's pretty self-explanatory how they manage to turn that into a positive when they join circus. And then also you get students who find that there's something completely unexpected in circus that they didn't expect to learn or be interested in that helps them cope with the challenge that they might have. So a shy student might find that they really love performing and expressing themselves physically. Or sometimes a student who has difficulty sitting still and is hyperactive finds their stillness and calm on the tight wire. And in my class, I teach a circus class up at the Point in Hunts Point, South Bronx. The class that's nearest and dearest to my heart is the teen program there. In the teen program, I give my students a high degree of freedom to come into class and explore what it is that they want to learn. I don't tell them, you must learn how to juggle, you must learn how to walk on a tight wire, you must learn how to do cartwheels. Usually they come into class, we tell them we start every class together, we warm up together, and then you're free to look around and see what the other students are doing and what interests you to learn. So immediately, whatever they decide to learn, it's something that appeals to them personally. And so let's say in the example of juggling, the first time that they learn how to juggle 3 balls, they think, wow, like, I saw that, I wanted to learn it, and I learned how to do it. And it makes them think, what other areas of my life can I apply that to? It's so much more powerful than telling them, you will learn how to juggle 3 balls, you must learn how to juggle 3 balls, and then when they learn how to do it, it's like what you told me to. And it's just like many other things in my life. But when they have the freedom to decide what it is that they want to learn, they discover their own personal learning style that works for them. And a lot of times that'll serve as a tipping point in other areas of their lives because they'll learn, oh wait, I can sit down and pay attention in my class. I can read that book. I am able to do that math problem. And they begin to find success and confidence in other areas of their lives. That's an ideal situation, but sometimes for students, circus will become the main source of success that they have, and the people that they go to circus class with and where they train, that will become their home and family. And in those cases, access to social circus is all the more important because it becomes the focal point of what they have in their lives. So while I've spoken a fair bit about how circus can be a tipping point for individuals, for my students and for myself, my students up at the Point in the past couple of years have taken that a step further, and they've seen how circus can be used to create a tipping point for their entire community. The Hunts Point community that we're located in, it's within view of Rikers Island. The highway that you have to cross under to get to the center is one of the most congested highway exits in the entire nation. It's one of the most polluted areas with a high rate of childhood asthma and diabetes. And it's a neighborhood that just faces a lot of challenges. But at the Point, we believe that our community's greatest resource is its children. And I feel like in certain neighborhoods, there's this attitude that in order to be successful, you have to get out. You have to get out of the ghetto. And what I started to tell my students is where we really need to start is getting the notion of the ghetto out of the ghetto. If you don't like where you live, it is your responsibility to turn your home into a place that you want to live. And for us, that started in the classroom. In addition to giving my students a high amount of freedom of what they want to learn, I tell them that not only do they have the freedom to shape their class culture, but they have the responsibility to shape their class culture. So that means if you don't like the fact that I give you rules and you don't like the fact that we have to warm up, then I give you the freedom to not have any rules and to not do warm-ups. And then pretty soon they learn why that doesn't work for them, why it's dangerous to do acrobatics without warming up, why when you have no rules, it means that not only do they get to run wild, but that everybody else gets to run wild and run in their way, And so they soon start to say, we do warm-ups, and these are the rules that we choose to enforce. This is how we behave. And it's much more powerful to have that coming from the class and having that come from the youth than to have teachers saying, you have to do this, cut that out, don't do this, don't do that. And what's happened over the past couple of years is that the regular students have started to become the teachers. When I first started working at the Point, I was told that if I was doing my job correctly, a few years down the line, I would be putting myself out of a job. And that's starting to happen, and it's a very beautiful shift, where the students now have not just reached that tipping point for themselves, but they're reaching that for their class, and that's extending beyond the walls of the Point and beyond their Hunts Point community. They're starting to go to juggling club and to perform professionally, not only around New York City, but also around the world. And what that does is they're not only helping their community from within, but when they go out and they're perceived as vibrant and talented, energetic, caring, and hardworking individuals, it changes the perception of what a young person who grows up in the South Bronx is like. And it changes the perception of who are the people who work in these kinds of professions and succeed. For me as a teacher, the final step in empowering my students is knowing when to let go. And one of the most gratifying and difficult parts of my profession is when it is time to tell a young person that they don't need me anymore and they're on their own. So I've been working in New York City for the past 7 years and have reached a crossroad in my own life where I will soon be relocating upstate to continue to do social circus work with a new group of young students. But in the circus world, as I told my class, we don't say goodbye, we say see you down the road.